What makes a true underdog? Is it where you come from, or is it more about how far you rise? Today, we're putting two of the NBA's grittiest and most unlikely legends head-to-head to decide once and for all, who has the most impressive underdog story in NBA history. This isn't just about stats or rings, it's about the struggle, the setbacks, and the relentless drive to defy every obstacle that dared step foot in their paths. Stick around and find out who takes the crown. Jimmy Butler, a kid abandoned at 13, who clawed his way from homelessness to NBA superstardom versus Dennis Rodman, a janitor who didn't even make his high school team, but he still became one of the greatest defenders the league has ever seen. Let's kick things off with Jimmy Butler before he ever wore a Chicago Bulls, Miami Heat, or Golden State Warriors jersey. Jimmy Butler was born in Houston, Texas in 1989. At 13 years old, he was kicked out of the house and left with no permanent place to live, no stable adult support system, no income, and no clear path forward. For months, Butler stayed with various friends, bouncing from couch to couch in Tomball, a suburb of Houston. He tried to stay out of trouble, despite having every reason to spiral. But what's remarkable is that he never gave up on basketball, and he kept going to school. He was known as likable and hardworking, even as he quietly dealt with the weight of survival. He wasn't a five-star recruit. In fact, he had 0 Division I offers out of high school. But what he did have was a deep level of determination and grit. He finally earned a shot at his time in school at Marquette, worked his way into the starting lineup, and was drafted 30th overall in 2011, a pick most teams don't even expect to play major minutes. But Jimmy didn't just make a roster, he made a statement. Expectations for his performance were low. That late in the first round, most players are projected to become bench role guys, if they even stick around the league. Butler didn't get minutes right away. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't hyped, but instead of fading into the background, he turned being underestimated into his fuel. He outworked veterans, studied film relentlessly, became known for showing up to the gym before anyone else, and sometimes sleeping there. He developed into one of the league's best perimeter defenders before his offensive game caught up. Then he made his biggest leap, from role player to all-star. By his 4th season, he won the NBA's Most Improved Player award, going from averaging 8 points per game to over 20. That wasn't luck. That was a statement. But it didn't stop with stats. He carried teams that shouldn't have made deep playoff runs and willed them into contenders. In 2020, he dragged an injury-plagued Miami Heat team to the finals, nearly upsetting LeBron and the Lakers. In 2023, as an 8th seed, he led them back to the finals, taking down number 1 seeded Milwaukee and Boston along the way. Butler became the face of doing things the hard way. No super teams, no spotlight hunting, just grit, defense, leadership, and clutch-time heroics. So when we say he didn't just make a roster, he made a statement, what we really mean is, Jimmy Butler redefined what success looks like in the NBA. It's not about where you start, it's about how relentlessly you fight to rise. Now, he's a 6-time All-Star, 5-time All-Defensive Player, Olympic gold medalist, and he's led underdog teams to 2 NBA Finals appearances, including one in the COVID bubble that nearly rewrote history. But it's not just his resume, it's his identity. Hard-nosed, no excuses, all heart. Butler became a symbol for every kid told they weren't good enough, tall enough, or polished enough, and he's still out here proving people wrong. Now, let's talk about Dennis Rodman, one of the most unorthodox legends the game has ever seen. Dennis Rodman didn't grow up dreaming of the NBA simply because it didn't even seem remotely possible. He was raised in a tough environment in Dallas, Texas by a single mother. They lived in the Oak Cliff neighborhood, low income with high crime. Dennis was shy, awkward, and small. He was far from the star athlete during his high school years. In fact, he stood just 5 feet 6 inches as a high school freshman. He tried out for the basketball team multiple times and got cut. He wasn't just overlooked, he was literally benched and dismissed. So he gave up on the sport and drifted. After high school, Rodman didn't go to college right away. He didn't have scholarships and no one was calling. He got a job as a janitor at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, working graveyard shifts and making minimum wage. And that might have been it for him, a lost kid stuck in survival mode. But then something weird happened. Rodman hit a massive growth spurt from 5'11" to 6'7" in his late teens, and with it came a second chance. He started playing pickup ball at local gyms where people noticed his rebounding instincts, freakish wingspan, and general basketball skills. A family friend connected him with a junior college, Cook County College, where he flunked out after a semester due to poor academics. Still, he didn't quit. He got another shot at Southeastern Oklahoma State University, an NAIA school, where he dominated, averaging over 25 points and 15 rebounds per game. That's where NBA scouts finally took notice. Fast forward, Rodman was drafted in the second round by the Detroit Pistons in 1986 and transformed into the NBA's ultimate chaos agent. He was a defensive freak of nature. He wasn't a big scorer, averaging 7 points per game for his entire career, but when it came to defense and rebounding, he was a straight-up savant. In the 1996 NBA Finals, Rodman was undersized and guarding 7-footers like Shawn Kemp. But that night, he grabbed 20 rebounds, including 11 offensive rebounds, setting a finals record. The Bulls went on to win the game largely due to the many second chances created by Rodman and his impressive rebounds. Rodman went on to win 5 NBA championships, was a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, and led the league in rebounding for 7 straight seasons, often guarding players half a foot taller. Oh, and the fun part? He did it all while breaking every conventional mold: piercings, hair dye, tabloid headlines. But under the wild persona was a player who outworked everyone, turned chaos into control, and gave everything on the court. So, who's the more impressive underdog? On one side, you have Jimmy Butler, the kid abandoned at 13, bouncing between friends' couches, told he'd never make it. No D1 offers, drafted dead last in the first round. Yet he clawed his way into becoming a 6-time All-Star Olympic gold medalist and the beating heart of teams that had no business making the NBA Finals. But did, because he refused to quit. His career is a masterclass in leadership, grit, and turning pain into fuel. On the other side, there's Dennis Rodman, the young man who couldn't even make his high school team, who spent nights mopping airport floors with no direction, no scholarship, and no plan. Then a late growth spurt cracked open the door and he tore it off the hinges. Drafted at 25 years old, he became a 5-time NBA champion, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, and the league's rebounding king for 7 straight seasons, shutting down Hall of Famers while barely putting points on the board. He changed the game by proving defense and hustle alone can make you a legend. Both men were doubted. Both men became icons. But if we're talking the most impressive underdog story, I've got to go with Dennis Rodman. Why? Because he wasn't just starting behind the curve. He wasn't even in the race. He had no structured path, no early exposure, no one grooming him for greatness. He built his career from absolute zero and turned himself into a Hall of Famer purely through obsession, adaptability, and unrelenting work ethic. Now it's your turn. Drop your pick in the comments. Who takes the crown as the NBA's ultimate underdog, Butler or Rodman?